Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Shout out to all the subscribers as always, and gratitude to anybody new. Welcome along. Thanks for tuning in. Let's talk about Jai Opetaia's road to Undisputed, because I think that is pretty inevitable at this point. Coming off a good win against Marius Bradis, who actually, to be honest with you, Marius Bradis, someone said this in the comments in the last video I did, and shout out to people that do put some really like gems in the comments. They're like, Bradis could probably beat all the other champions. And I'm like, do you know what? He probably could. Such a wily old veteran, and he really showed that in Opetaia in the last fight. I know he started really slow, but he hurt Opetaia a couple of times, and actually, I'll pull up the clip. He caught Opetaia with the exact same punch that he broke his jaw with in the first fight. I'll show you. It was a right uppercut.
Oh, big shot. Behind in the fight and desperate. He's hurt Opetaia. Breed is still dangerous, Fleck.
Sneaky right uppercut. He's a sneaky fighter. He also caught him with a two backhand, or like a 2-1. Very Eastern European thing to do, or a 1-2-1 is, but that caught him bang on the chin. I'll try and find the clip if I can. But nonetheless, Bradis is actually not in the conversation. It's Gilberto Ramirez, who I don't know what belt he holds. It might be the WBO or WBA. I'll put it up on the screen. He is just coming off probably one of his best wins against Goulamarian. That's the French guy's name.
And new
Where he won the champ. He won the belt off the champ. So he is one of the men standing in the way. And that to me is probably Jai Opetaia's toughest fight, if you ask me. And just because well, we've got Chris Smith I'll get onto, and then there's another guy, I've completely forgotten his name. I'll write on the screen. He just won a vacant belt off of he beat Makabu, but I'd never heard of him before. But I'll pull up some highlights, and I'll pull up the details of his record as well, because maybe you've heard of him. I'd never heard of him before. Cruiserweight is the most knowledgeable division for me, which is one of the reasons I'm making this video, so I can educate myself a bit more, because I kind of slept on the Cruiserweight division a couple of years ago, and obviously Jai Opetaia I've been following quite hard, but this gentleman whose name I don't know, I have not seen him fight. But Gilberto Ramirez, for me, I think poses the toughest challenge, although I still think Opetaia beats all three of these fairly decisively. Now, Ramirez, obviously, his only loss is against Dimitri Bivol, and at the time I didn't make a video of it, but I put it on someone else's channel in the comments. I was like, that's an easy win for Bivol. He's gonna just, that style, the speed, the counter punching ability from Bivol, and obviously Jai Opetaia doesn't fight quite like Bivol, but there are some similarities, especially with that in and out style. He's more powerful, and he's a harder hitter, and he can counter punch too. And I think he's gonna get the better of Ramirez. If and when should they fight? Because I think the next fight, to be honest with you, is the Billam Smith fight.
I want that WBO, you know what I mean? I think Billam Smith and Riakpo might have a fight, I'm not sure. But whoever wins that fight, I want that WBO.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, got to go and do it. But yeah, no, it's. I think it feels like less of a step than going to become world champion, because that's the ultimate dream. But yeah, to be unified, and then aim for undisputed as well. Obviously, one step at a time, but yeah, unifications is what we're looking at.
Of course, I mean, I think it's the marquee fight of the division. I really do. People obviously looked like it was Chris Billam Smith was going to be easy pickings for Jai Opetaia, but listen, Chris Billam Smith has. I think he can beat him. I genuinely do, and we have to say that Opetaia is the number one just because of the way he beat Bradis, who was originally the number one. But if Chris can go out, unify against Gilberto Ramirez, and Opetaia can pick up the WBC belt, if we can get those to box and win world titles, and then we can go on to an undisputed.
Which is an excellent fight. And look, he's an excellent young man, like a consummate professional, tough guy. I think his nickname's the Gentleman. comes to fight, comes in shape, strong, physical, fairly basic if you want. I don't really like using that term because it sounds disrespectful, but you know, there's no special effects there. Although one of his better assets, that he is better than Jai Opetaia in my opinion anyway, is his inside fighting, and he's spoken about that too. I've also spoken about Jai Opetaia's lack of inside fighting, or at least I don't want to say not knowing what to do, but like if you come up against a fighter that does really know what to do and you're kind of a little bit of a fish out of water, it could be problematic if the fight ends up there, because Opetaia's style isn't conducive to that, and he's not really needed to. Hence why I'll pull up some clips again, because I brought up clips against in other videos where Opetaia he's a little too upright. He doesn't really know how to get his base under him. He doesn't really know how to tuck his chin, and he doesn't really know what to do when you're comparing against someone that really does. And somebody like Bradis was able to land some really sneaky, clean shots against Opetaia just because he knew what he was doing, and he was getting himself in position. He was getting his foot in position, and Opetaia's base gets broken, right? Your base is the foundation of your stance. And when you're on the inside, you tend to square up a little bit, and you know, your balance can be a bit affected if you're not aware about it. And I think that was a big problem. And Billam Smith can get some nice work done on the inside. And I'll show you this little clip against Riakporhe, the second fight they just had, where he retained his belt.
Hand to the body. I don't know if there's something that they've worked on, but I haven't seen it. It hasn't paid off just yet. But boxing is about continuing down the line.
And got the win back over Riakporhe. He's just on the ropes, right? And you can see Riakporhe is a classic example of someone who doesn't know how to fight on the inside. He's just standing there, kind of like, I think he ends up throwing wild shots at the end of this video, but like Billam Smith is getting some nice tidy work under there, right? And it's when you're fighting on the inside like that, it's awkward. And I've spoken about Andre Ward loads of times about how he was, you know, drilled to train on fight on the inside when it's awkward and you've got a guy holding you and you can get these shots off like that. It takes a bit of skill, it takes a bit of practice, and Billam Smith can do it. And he's doing it in this clip here. He's shooting left hooks, he's shooting uppercuts, and he's getting to work, and he's understanding how to create space in there as well. Big factor of fighting on the inside. Knowing what you're doing, getting your base under you, trying to break your opponent's base so they're not really, you know, they're kind of, you know, not able to defend as well or throw punches. And as I said, Riakporhe just has no idea how to fight on the inside, and that's why little pockets like that could be advantageous for Billam Smith if he were to get there. But I don't think he'll be able to get there. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Opetaia stopped him, to be honest with you, because he is there to be hit, and there's not a great deal of head movement. And like I said, I think the speed factor too. I think Opetaia could come in and just crash him with that back left hand that he's so venomous with. You know, he's got an arsenal of punches, Jai Opetaia. Right hooks, counter punching, backhands, body shots. A tremendous fighter. And you know, I think he's the kind of fighter, I've said so many times, he just wants to get better. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the gym the day after, or maybe not the day after, but because he definitely had a bit of a he was, ice on his head, and he's like he got a bit busted in that 10th or 11th round. Bradis really got to him, and he commended him for that. But so maybe as soon as he could be back in the gym, he'll be back in the gym, learning, wanting to get better. I'd love to see some improvements on the inside game, but Opetaia is a beast. We know that, and I think he's going to walk through these guys. I don't know if he walks through Ramirez, just because he's such a solid, massive, skillful guy. You know, he's got skills. I was a bit disappointed in the lack of heart he showed against Bivol. He seemed to just be like defeated, you know, mentally defeated. But, you know, I think he's had a couple of good wins now against Joe Smith. I haven't seen that fight, to be honest with you. I watched the highlights of the Gulamarian fight today. If the fight does get made, obviously I'll watch more detail and do a full analysis on it. But the other guy that is in the division, I can't remember his name. I'll pull it up on the screen. I have no idea about this guy, but I'm just going to go out on a whim and say that Opetaia stops him. Obviously, I'm joking. That'd be foolish to say that, but you know, I can't really speak on him, but I would assume he's probably, given the fact that I've not known who he is, maybe he's the weakest guy in the division, and he won a belt vacantly off aging Makabu, who I've never rated really highly in the first place. But, you know, I'll look at him a little bit closer for sure. But that is the road to Undisputed. Jai Opetaia, for me, next year will be the Undisputed Cruiserweight Champion of the world. And then he wants to get the belts and then move up to Cruiserweight, move up to Heavyweight, and continue his quest for superstardom, because this kid is an animal. And I'm making a video about actually Australian boxers. It's called On the Map. And I want to talk about the family impact that it's had. I want to, you know, get some feedback from the Australians as to what the hell they're feeding them down there, because I've said it so many times, there's some incredibly tough men, and I've got so much respect for what they're doing right now. So a separate video on that coming soon-ish. I don't want to put a time on it, but hopefully in the next month or two. But that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know any thoughts of yours in the comments. Always appreciate you tuning in. Thank you very much. Peace and love. Boxing on the edge.
Boxing.
On it.